you've just got to put the time into creating good, valuable content. Like, it's not a quick fix. It takes time to take a nice photo and edit it and think about what you want to say and craft it into a little story. And I think a lot of people say, oh, I don't have time. And I say back, well, this is really powerful marketing for your business, because you need to have an image that will stop that dreaded thumb scroll and make people think, oh, what's this? I want to hang here in this little corner of Instagram for a few more minutes.
Hi, I'm Jane Hilsden, marketing consultant and founder of Dragonfly Marketing and author of How to Do Marketing, a comprehensive guide for small businesses. Welcome to yet another episode of the How to Do Marketing show. I've got to say, I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with Instagram over the years. I find it a really needy bugger of a platform, and the brands that I see doing really well on the platform seem to produce beautiful, witty, or intelligent content all the damn time. Like, I just think it must be exhausting and time-consuming producing such prolific amounts of magazine-worthy images and storytelling, right? But one person who I have thought has absolutely nailed Insta for so long is Sophie Hansen. Soph lives with her family on their deer farm just outside of Orange in New South Wales. She is an incredible cook and food stylist. And for the past 10 years, she has been sharing recipes and social media tips on her two blogs, Local is Lovely and My Open Kitchen. She is currently writing her third cookbook, and in 2016, she was awarded the Australian Rural Woman of the Year in recognition of her commitment to rural communities. Amazing. Now, once you've finished listening to this podcast, seriously, check out her Instagram profile. It's at Local Lovely. It's just but a glimpse into the romance of rural living. You will honestly get lost on her grid as you are treated to mouth-watering recipes and idyllic scenes from what seems such a wholesome and rewarding lifestyle. And after listening to Soph, it seems that, like most things in life, it does take time and effort to Instagram well, but with so many opportunities to engage with your audience and particularly strengthening your relationship with them, it does appear to be worth it. So just a short heads up on this audio, the internet connection between Port Macquarie and Cargo had a few slow moments. So please forgive a few of the small little pauses experienced, but the goodness of what Soph has to say makes it totally worth it. Soph, I find your background so fascinating. Can you talk us through where you started your career, all the way through to what led you to living on a venison farm in Molong, New South Wales, and doing what you do today?
Okay. So I'll try and keep it relatively brief. It's a fairly long story, but essentially I grew up in Sydney. I did print journalism at university in Canberra and went straight after that into working for food magazines, just by chance really. That's how I got my first job as an editorial coordinator for a magazine. And I spent most of my 20s working in magazines, and I loved it. I really, really loved being a part of a creative team. I loved bringing images and words together on the page to tell a really enticing story. I spent 3 years of my 20s working in northern Italy for the slow food movement in their editorial house, which was basically my dream job, just writing about food and eating a lot of amazing food and all that kind of thing. So that was really, I guess, crystallized for me how I feel about sourcing and sharing really good seasonal tasty food. And that kind of, I guess, it helped me figure out that was the story I really wanted to focus on for my writing going forward. Anyway, I came back and I got a job with Outback magazine for R.M. Williams Publishing. And as part of that, I was invited to a lunch one day at a restaurant in Sydney celebrating Australian farmed venison. And there was a very nice deer farmer there called Tim. And 3 months later, we were engaged and I was living on the farm. It happened very quickly. It just happened very naturally. And I, absolutely loved the move and was very excited to begin my kind of new life, not just writing about food and primary production, but being a primary producer myself or part of a farm business. So I moved here and I kind of started doing a few different jobs. I was working in wine marketing and volunteering in the local food group committee, etc. And I loved that. And then we sort of started our family. But I was missing that feeling part of a creative team. I was missing writing and images and telling those stories. So someone said to me, you should start a blog. And I was like, oh, God, I didn't even know what a blog was at that point. But every weekend we were doing farmers markets in Sydney or Bathurst or Orange. And I'd stand there every weekend writing recipes on the back of brown paper bags and watch people in the Apple store next to us or whatever store was the other side. And we'll all be sharing these great recipes for our product. And I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll collect these recipes and put them on a blog because not everyone can get to a market every weekend. So that's how I started my blog, Local is Lovely, in 2011. And a few years after that, I started using Instagram and then lost many, many hours of my life. But I feel very grateful to both Instagram and my blog because they gave me a career basically and a platform to jump off into all kinds of opportunities that I never ever would have imagined. I'm currently on deadline with my third cookbook, which is due out next year, and doing all kinds of things. So I guess I'm a big believer in if you build it, they will come. Like if you consistently show up and share content that's valuable and relevant and useful to people, opportunities will come knocking. I really think that. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how I came to be doing what I'm doing. And I feel very lucky to have these opportunities. But I also people often ask about, had 8 years of plugging away, like taking the photos, writing the recipes. So it's a lot of work, but I do think it pays off.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I don't know how much I possibly met you at the point where you did move to Molong. So I've probably seen.
Sorry, Jane. I'll just.
Oh yeah.
Interrupt you. We're not actually Molong. I meant to mention that before. We're Cargo. So it's sort of similar distance from the Orange, about half an hour out of town, but just slightly different direction. But
okay,
doesn't really matter.
Cargo. There you go. And I've been to your farm and I had no idea it was in.
Yes.
Okay, so there we go. All right. So since you moved to, I think that's when I met you. And I must say, as I said, I've just been so fascinated hearing all about your career, like especially your time working in Italy on the slow food movement. And I love your story around how you wangled your way into that position. And you almost seem to have had, you say that was your dream job, and you say that, a lot of the stuff you do now is your kind of dream job. But I think it's most people's dream jobs, or certainly the way that you actually tell that story. It looks idyllic. You can really see the romance in that situation. And as you said before, I'm absolutely sure, and I have no doubt that there's been a lot of hard work, a lot of blood, sweat and tears along the way. But the way you paint that picture is absolutely beautiful. So, back in 2014, is 2014 correct? You published your first cookbook?
My first book.
Local is Lovely.
Yes.
Which I purchased a copy of, and I love it. I use it all the
thank
time. You. But this was more than a cookbook, and you mentioned your blog and your Instagram page before of the same title. It did seem at that time, it was more of a movement. It wasn't necessarily, and it was a business, obviously, but it was more of a movement that you were starting to encourage people to support local producers. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and why that kind of movement's important to you?
Well, I guess I had a vested interest in it myself, in the sense that we needed people to come and buy our meat, our venison, every Saturday at the market. But also, just referring back to my, I guess, those years working with slow food and before that as a food writer, I believe, we all have a kind of a part to play in encouraging, I guess, our communities to sort of survive and thrive and supporting each other as small businesses. And I think mine might be sharing that conviviality aspect. And by conviviality, I mean, the joy of sharing food at a table with people, because I'm not very good at agri-politics. I'm not up on all the policy or all that kind of stuff. I'm not an agronomist, but I can take a nice photo of a dish, and maybe that encourages someone to think, oh, I'm going to go to the market this weekend. I'm going to buy those peaches and I'm going to make that beautiful roast peach dessert or whatever it might be. So I guess sharing how what a beautiful, enjoyable thing it is to really think about where you're sourcing your food, who you're going to share it with, and enjoy the whole process. The more we do it, the more we realize how nice it is, and hopefully people continue to sort of spread the word. So I guess, certainly my blog and my book the blog started as a hobby, really, because I was home with babies and just wanted a creative outlet, and then it just kind of grew and grew. And then the book, I hope that my small part in all of this is just encouraging people to get out there and cook and share and support their local farmers. And the more fun and yummy it is, the more people will do it, I hope.
Yeah, and that comes across. Your passion absolutely comes across in all of the content that you share. And, I think probably, even though I've got the book, I've probably read the blog, but I had forgotten about that. But something that I do see a lot of is the local lovely Instagram page. And, with that Instagram page, you've amassed over 30,000 followers. Now, in my opinion, when you visit that profile, when you visit that page on Instagram, it's really easy to see why. Your imagery and your storytelling is captivating. And as I said, that passion is really palpable. So you've got this huge following, but not only that, you also get really fantastic engagement. And by that, I mean likes and comments on your Instagram posts. Can you share some tips around how you've not only managed to kind of build that massive following, but also to make sure that the engagement on your posts remains high?
Well, thank you. You said some really kind things there. I think the first thing is you've just got to put the time into creating good, valuable content. Like, it's not a quick fix. It takes time to take a nice photo and edit it and think about what you want to say and craft it into a little story. And I think a lot of people say, I don't have time. And I say, well, this is really powerful marketing for your business, because you need to have an image that will stop that dreaded thumb scroll and make people think, oh, what's this? I want to hang here in this little corner of Instagram for a few more minutes. So that's the first thing I think, is just really learn to take a good photo with your phone. And the cameras on our phones are amazing these days. Use an editing app. Like I use Afterlight, but you can use Snapseed. There's a heap of really good, very affordable. Visco is another one, editing app. So, you settle on a filter and use the same filter every time, and you get a consistency and a brand tone. So there's that. And I think in terms of engagement, you've got to ask for it. Don't just sort of post a photo and say, here's what we had for breakfast today. You might post a photo and say, here's what we had for breakfast today, and here's how I made it. What's the best breakfast you've had all week? Or, maybe you've gone to Sydney and you had a great avocado toast for breakfast and you've taken a photo and shared that. People might be thinking, well, big whoop, I'm glad you had a breakfast like that, but I didn't. I'm stuck at home. But maybe if you sort of compile a list, where we've just had a great weekend in Sydney with the kids, and here's our top 5 restaurants or cafes that are family friendly. What are yours? So always be throwing the ball back into the court. It's a conversation. I think people often forget. The clue is in the name, right? It's called social media for a reason.
Yes.
You've got to be asking questions and inviting that feedback, because I think people, if I see someone's post on Instagram and they've asked me a question, I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll answer that. We generally do what we're told in life, but if you just sort of plant it there as a kind of like drop it there as a bit of content for people to sort of look and move on to, there's nothing for them to hook onto. I think.
Yes. That is so valuable. That's such an insightful tip, and in terms of your engagement, you're not only asking people to kind of like, or you're not encouraging someone to like, you're actually asking them to comment. And as you said, join the conversation. And that is the biggest points that you can score in the Instagram and Facebook algorithm, is that demonstration of social connection. more so in recent
Yeah.
years. They want to see people being connected on the platform. And by simply posing a question, and it's not a hard question to answer, what are your favourite cafes in Sydney? It's not, something that people have to think about. In fact, it's probably a question that people have a lot of joy in answering and sharing. And I think in my experience, people actually really love to share their opinions and their, ideas and stuff on Facebook and Instagram. So I think that's a really, really good tip there. And that's a good segue into the next kind of question, which is around that organic visibility on Instagram. Because if you are someone who uses Instagram a lot, in the last 2 years, you would have noticed that as the platform has kind of transformed and evolved, and as it's been more closely aligned with the Facebook advertising functionality, the organic visibility or what you get for free on Instagram has dropped significantly. Did you notice this drop? And did you do anything differently to adapt to this?
I did notice it a little bit. To be honest, I don't, because I'm not monetizing my Instagram and I don't have to report to anyone with it, I don't actually spend a huge amount of time on my analytics, which is probably naughty, but I sort of go by feel more than anything else, just because I can tell when a post is done well because there's a conversation happening in the comment thread. That's when I'm like, yes, that's a good comment. That's a good successful post. But I think I hear this a lot. Like I know absolutely that the algorithm has caused difficulties for a lot of people, but I think if you're consistently showing up with useful, valuable, relevant content for people, they will keep coming back to you. I mean, and if you just look for yourself, even with your Instagram stories, the 4 or 5 people whose stories that the algorithm shows to you first every time are generally the people whose feeds you get the most out of.
Yes.
So it's because I'm constantly looking at them and they're delivering stuff that I need in my life, whether it's just a little chuckle or a good recipe or whatever it might be that I've focused on my time online. So I think focus on, and I always say this till I'm blue in the face, focus on being relevant and focus on being useful to people. And I think that's the best way to beat the algorithm, because then people will come back to you and they'll be commenting and they'll come and find you. If you're showing up regularly with good stuff, I think that's the best way to beat the algorithm for sure. But I have to say the other thing is, I often say this as well, don't put all your eggs in your social basket. My newsletter, which I've really invested a lot of time in growing over the last years, is a really valuable tool for me. And I know, I take a lot of kind of comfort in the fact that if Instagram shut down my account tomorrow, which is unlikely, but it could happen, I guess, I have that bricks and mortar of my mailing list and my online presence, my actual web presence as well. So I think you sort of got to have them spread the risk a bit and have them both.
Yes. And on that, because I think that's a really, really good point, and that's something that I certainly iterate with businesses all the time, is the importance of building your kind of digital ecosystem and not relying solely on your Instagram or even your Facebook communities. But do you have a particular formula, even if it's just kind of what you do, not an official framework, to tie in those assets, so that, because obviously you've got this huge community on Instagram and Facebook, which we can see, but you've also been quietly building that email database up, and you have that website where you're driving traffic to go and read your blog. And we can't obviously see how big those assets from the outside. Are you and I agree with you. I think your email database and your website are far more valuable in terms of an asset for your business. But do you have a particular formula where you're kind of taking people from your social communities and moving them into your kind of owned assets, if we call them that?
Yeah, so I do. I mean, the way I think of it is, like, my Instagram page is like a cafe where I like to go and hang out and chat with like-minded people and share information and receive information. And so I try and post on Instagram on Local is Lovely, I try and post like 3 or 4 times a week. It doesn't always happen. I find the more I share personal stuff and my face on my stories, more people like that. Just especially now, I think we're just really wanting that connection. So I do, but the what I try and do in terms of building up moving people over to my owned assets, as you say, is so I send a newsletter every Monday morning at 6:30 a.m. called 5 Things to Be Cheerful About.
Yes.
And it's just silly things like things to cook and read and do and playlists and podcasts. And then I'm like, and also I've got this event or my book is online sale. So it's a weekly opportunity to check in and maybe sell something, but lead with that useful, relevant content. So maybe on a Friday I'll post something and say I'm putting together some links for Monday. It's going to be a cracker of a newsletter, and just a hint, there might be some, I don't know, the best podcast I've ever listened to. What's your favorite? And I'll add it in there. So I'm asking the question, but I'm also reminding, I might have had 30 new followers that week who would have no idea that I've got a newsletter. So I'm regularly reminding people, hey, jump over to the link in my profile, sign up to my newsletter. And every time I do that, I'll pick up new subscribers every time, some more than others.
Wow.
But I think it's really important. And then often on a Monday, straight after I've sent the newsletter, I might use the lead image from my newsletter on my Instagram and say, this morning's newsletter has just gone out. And maybe, for example, Fleabag is something I bang on about a bit in my newsletter because I love that show. And my ideal customer in my head, Sally, who you introduced me to many years ago, Jane, my ideal customer loves Fleabag as well. So I'll be like, has anyone had a chance yet to listen to that great podcast interview with Phoebe Waller-Bridge from Fleabag? What did you think of it? So then we're having a conversation there.
Yes.
And it's making people who haven't signed up to the newsletter yet think, oh, actually, there's some juicy stuff happening over there. I will sign up.
Yes.
So it's all working kind of together in a very easy way for me, because I'm not creating new content every time. I'm just talking about it in a different way.
Yes, and you're actually using those different platforms as a complete ecosystem. So as you said, it's not like you're creating different content for each platform. You're creating the same content but sharing it and curating it so that it's relevant and most applicable to the channel that you're working with. And so in terms of, so when you say you actually post something on Instagram and it might be like the heads up, the newsletter's just gone out on a Monday, or I'm putting together the podcast playlist for Monday's newsletter. So when people are actually, so they read that post in their Instagram feed, and then do you direct them, like how do you actually get them from there to your website to actually sign up, or are they actually signing up through the Instagram platform?
Well, yes, they are. Most of my sign-ups come via the link from my profile in my Instagram.
Right.
So every time I'll say, don't forget, you can always sign up via the link in my profile. I also, in my Instagram stories, I might do a rolling screenshot. So, you can do like scrolling through the newsletter so everyone can sort of see what it looks like. And then I'll say swipe up, and I'll add the web link in my Instagram story. So there's a few different ways, I guess. But the main way, I think, is through my Instagram profile link. And I use a platform called Milkshake. I don't know if you've come across Milkshake, but it's a lot prettier. It's got, I use Milkshake, and that's when I do look at my analytics with MailChimp, and that's who I use for my newsletter. I think 70% of them, last I looked, had come through that profile link.
Wow. And sorry, you just cut out when you were saying what the Milkshake app does. What does the Milkshake app do? So
it's very similar to Linktree, but it just looks nicer, I think. Right. There's a lot of really beautiful free templates that you can create, essentially, because you can do things. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Milkshake. I think it's a great tool.
Okay, and so then explain what Linktree and Milkshake do. So if you're going to hook those up to your Instagram account, how do they fit in? So with Instagram, you only get one clickable link in your profile, and it just lets you
use that one link to bounce people more directly, I believe, where they need to go. So you might have, if you've got a website which is really well set up, and the minute people get onto that homepage, they know exactly where they want to go and how to get there. Maybe you don't need Linktree or Milkshake, but for me, for example, my priorities are, I want to send people to my sign up page for my mailing list. I might want to sell my book. I might want to, I might have read an article on another person's blog or somewhere else that I really loved and I might have talked about in a recent post on Instagram, and I might link to that there. So it's a nice community building section. Or maybe, Jane's new podcast, when this episode comes out, I'll put a link on my Milkshake straight to your podcast. So I think it just lets you be very clear and direct where people at a glance can go where they need to go without going to your website, looking at the menu bar at the top. Where do I need to go now? Oh, I need to go over there. Any of that friction, they say, and I believe them, the Facebook algorithm gods, that, and with every bit of friction in terms of getting to where people want to buy a product or sign up for a thing or listen to a thing, you get drop off. So as easy as you can make it for people to get where they need to be, I think Linktree is great, or Milkshake. And both of them are free, or they have pro versions you can pay for, but I haven't needed it. I've used both and I've never paid. And it's great. They give you lots of analytics and just lets you, through that one click, it pops up a whole page and people can do, yes, I want to buy the book, or yes, I want to sign up for this thing, or yes, I want to listen to that playlist, or whatever it might be. I think it's really handy.
Yeah. And so those links for those people that haven't used the Linktree or the Milkshake app, so you actually, in your profile on your Instagram, in your Instagram profile, you actually stick the link to that in the website link, isn't it? Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, so you create your Linktree or Milkshake page on their platforms.
Yes.
And they generate a link for you. So mine is, I think, Local Lovely, Milkshake /Local Lovely, or whatever it might be. So that's my link that I paste into my profile.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect. I think that's a really, really good tool for people to know about. Okay, now, so tell me, I want to know about your pictures, because again, if anyone has got their phone nearby and wants to go and head over to, we'll put this podcast on speaker for starters, don't jump off, but just take a scroll over to Instagram and put in the handle @LocalLovely, and you'll soon get a feeling for the incredible photography without even actually opening the post to see the storytelling, the copywriting that Soph uses to spark those conversations. The images are just amazing. And if you've ever had any kind of thoughts or dreams about living rurally, like this will 100% cement your desire to do so. So look, talk us through, because there's also a lot of photos on Instagram where I applaud anyone who's getting out there and giving it a go, and certainly the real life and the authenticity that sits behind real, and I'm putting those in quotation marks, photos can be really endearing. But when we actually want to create beautiful imagery, how can small businesses do this? I mean, do they need the photography equipment? I imagine you would have it because of your background and your role and your books and all that sort of stuff. Do we need those, or are there some simple tips that you can share that will help us get better images on our smartphones?
Yeah, look, I absolutely believe you can. I mean, the photos that people can take with iPhones are top-notch quality. Most of the ones I do share on my Instagram are from my camera, because I just have it set up that I just Wi-Fi images directly. Probably 30% of my Instagram feed are photos from my phone, because I've always got it in my pocket. And the best camera is the camera that you have with you, right? So when I'm out and about on the farm and I see a beautiful sunset or whatever and I snap it on my phone, that's something I might want to share. So there are a few things you can do absolutely to take better photos. The one thing is natural light. Like always shoot in natural light.
Yes.
So especially if you're a product or a food business, turn off the lights up overhead, shoot during the day, push a table up next to a window so you've got that really nice one directional soft light coming in. Overcast days are your best friend because you get that really, they call it, God's light box, that lovely soft light. So, again, I said earlier, you've just got to put the time in to doing this, put aside half a day and have fun with it, unleash your creative side and take a whole bunch of photos, learn how to take a flat lay. I think flat lays are really great. And by that, I mean any, over the top where you're holding your phone over the table and you've arranged a few items or, elements. So maybe it's a Monday morning post for you, Jane, and you've got your computer set up with a coffee and your notebook and your phone and you take a photo over the top and you're like, right, come on, we're going to get this day going or whatever it might be.
Yes.
Just lots of different, be creative in the way that you illustrate your stories. So natural light, think about your composition. I think that's a really important one. On your camera settings in your phone, turn on the grid. And that lets you'll see those three lines that the lines that intersect. And where those lines intersect, where you've got crosses, that's like this very basic introduction to the rule of thirds, but that's the sort of sweet spot for the human eye. So when you're taking a photo, rather than just rushing in going snap, you've got your grid on and maybe it's a landscape. So you might think, okay, I'm going to put the sky in the top 2/3 of my image and the grass and the landscape in the way you're taking your photo. Don't rush it. Think about composition, pull back. I think a lot of people get too close into their images and sort of crowd the frame. Instagram is a very noisy, crowded place. If you can pull back and give whatever it is that you're taking a photo of some room to breathe and a bit of space, people might think, oh, this is a nice little relaxing spot for my eye to sit for a while, and then they might stay and read. And so be creative. Think about how you're composing, what you're actually taking a photo of and why, and how you can make it as beautiful as possible. I mean, the light thing is a really important one, and often the golden hour, or as farmers often call it, bank manager's hour, when the grass doesn't look quite so dry or whatever it might be. But, if you go out at bank manager's hour and, at dusk or dawn, photos of people or places at that time are just instantly more stunning. So just put a bit of effort in, don't go out in the middle of the day and take a photo of your team when everyone's squinting under the sun, or try a little bit harder. And editing is really important, I think. You want to keep it authentic and you don't want to make it look weird, but if you just run a little editing, a filter, and just sharpen and brighten or whatever it is through your images, and the same treatment for every image, it just helps you kind of put your stamp on it. I remember a winemaker said this thing to me once, which I never forgot, which was when he's making wine, he thinks, if the label fell off, would people still know it was mine? And I often think with my Instagram posts, what I aim for is if people couldn't see that it was my photo, I'd love them to think, that looks like a Sophie photo because it's bright and it's got beautiful light in it, or whatever it might be. So I think that just try and make it your own.
Yes, and you mentioned that before in terms of, a little while ago, about the branding that you're building with your filters and the style of your photography. So, and I think that is really, really clever, and it's great for people to think of branding as an expansion upon your actual logo, and I'm sure that's what the winemaker was talking about. If the words actually fell off, would there be enough clues on the wine bottle to
in the wine?
Oh, in the wine.
Just the actual taste of the wine, I guess.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, because
the same.
Otherwise, it was just going to be a glass bottle. Yeah.
No. Like, the taste of it, I guess. It's just more that sort of feel of recognition that's got your stamp on it somehow.
Yes, and that makes complete sense. Absolutely. So in terms of, and you touched on the frequency before. So you said you're posting about 3 to 4 times per week. Has that changed over the years? Did you start off really fervently? Did you build your community with lots of frequency and kind of take back, or how have you managed that?
I used to post a lot more. I used to post sometimes every day. Now I just find I don't have the time at the moment just because I'm juggling a few different things. But also I feel like as long as you're showing up regularly, and even one really good post a week with some Instagram stories in between is better than posting 5 times a week because you think you have to, and you're just scrolling through your photo camera roll and you're thinking, shivers, I better throw something up there, and it just will fall a bit flat because there's no value. Where I do, like, etc. We do a lot of content planning with the people I work with, and often I say to people, just try and create one really valuable piece of content a week.
Yes.
Share that roughly at the same time every week, and then repurpose it. So talk about it, do a little Instagram live where you're asking questions about it, or some video or stories, or break it up into a few different posts. But if you start with one really useful piece of content a week, that's quite an easy content plan to stick with, right? We can all do that. And you think, right, it's Wednesday. Today I'm going to share a recipe or a tip or whatever it might be that is valuable to your audience. So I think, keeping it quality really high and consistent is the main thing. So if you can do that every day, great, good on you. That's amazing. But not all of us can do that. So I think, and that's why, if you did decide to build a newsletter into your kind of content planning or your ecosystem, that one piece a week, that's where that can be really helpful, because you think, okay, well, the bulk of it might go on my newsletter, and then I'll have a little conversation about it on my social media a couple of times, and maybe we'll do a live chat or something in my Facebook group. So, I think keeping it a really simple plan where you're just sort of, you don't feel that pressure to be posting all the time.
Yeah,
I think. But look, others might disagree with me, and I don't have all the stats on it, but that seems to be the way that's worked for myself and people I've worked with.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I agree. Quality over quantity, and I think probably, these days I'm not sure. Like if you were starting an Instagram page now, whether you can get away with just doing one post per week to get enough kind of affinity and momentum on the platform, not sure.
I think you might be right. I think at
probably
least
have to start off with a few more.
I think, 3, if you really wanted to like make a splash and get some good traction, I'd say even 3 to 5.
Yeah.
But they've got to be, and they don't all have to be like hugely rich pieces of content. You could be sharing a shout out to someone's work that you love, or just a quote, or that kind of thing. But but be there to talk about it. Like I often say to people, when you're starting out, especially, aim to spend as much, if not more, time in other people's feeds than your own. And I think, because you can't just, it's not, actually, I think it was Janet Murray. Have you come across her? She's got a great podcast. She's a UK based, I think it's, I can't remember the name of it now. Anyway, if people just Google Janet Murray, they'll find it. But she likens it to, you wouldn't just walk into a big networking event, stand in the middle of the room and talk about yourself very loudly all night, would you?
No.
You'd ask question, what do you do? And I do this, and that's interesting, we should collaborate on something. Social media is the same, it's a big networking event, I think.
Yes.
So get out there and you can make a list of 10 people a month or a week that you want to connect with, and just pop in and comment thoughtfully on their posts regularly, and they'll be like, oh, this person sounds like my kind of girl, or she's interesting, and they'll come and find you. And so,
yes. And as you said, and I could not agree with you more, it's a two-way conversation. It's a social media. So it's not just all about you posting out your content and then sitting back and waiting for people to interact with you. I'm a huge believer of karma on social media, and you get out what you put in, and it might not be from the same people. So you might go and interact with somebody else's account all the time, and it might not be them coming back into your feed, but I think just the general principle of being there for other people means that people will be much more inclined to actually be there for you in terms of contribution.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think don't forget that what it also brings to you in terms of networking and community building, because you never know who you'll connect with and what that could lead to, like I've made all sorts of work and personal friends because of Instagram, and we've worked together on workshops and jobs and different things. So yeah, as you say, it's karma. Like truly, the more you put in, the more you will get out. Yes, it's an investment in your time, but you can do it in your trackies from home,
And we love that. We're all doing that at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Isolation, aren't we?
Exactly.
Hashtags, Soph, you use them. I've seen that you're still using those.
Yep.
So what's your principle with hashtags? How do you approach your hashtags?
Look, I think hashtags, they're not the be-all and end-all, but I do think I use them most of the time, unless I'm just posting in a rush, which is not good practice. I think, why wouldn't you? Like every little hashtag is its own little mini search engine, and they have so many purposes. Like either you build one, you create one for your own products. So for my book, A Basket by the Door, I ask people to use that hashtag when they're cooking recipes from the book. So it's a really great way for me to do some market research and see what kind of recipes people are loving the most, and to create a sense of community around that product. So, have your own hashtag, but also a great way to get your content seen by new people. So, but be thoughtful about them. So don't just do hashtag yum. Do hashtag, like I'm a real nerd about my hashtags. I have in my notes app, I'll have, and I spend a bit of time on it every couple of weeks. I'll go in and just edit my hashtags, and I'll have quite specific groups of them. So I'll be like sourdough baking, or books and windows, or, foraged flowers, or all sorts of things that are relevant to my audience. And so then when I do take a photo of a book sitting by a window, which weirdly enough I do quite a lot, I can just go in there and copy and paste, and then do a little bit of editing and take out ones that might not particularly apply. So I think don't just use the same bunch of hashtags every time. And people say that that's frowned upon by the algorithm or the Instagram gods anyway. Be quite thoughtful, and then if you're traveling, so I did a guide to my favorite coffee spots in the Blue Mountains recently, because it's a road we travel normally, that we travel a lot. And so I posted that on my blog, and I said on my Instagram, I've just posted this guide. What are your favorite places to go? I'd love to, and I'll add them onto my list. And then I hashtagged that with Destination New South Wales, Visit Blue Mountains, all those ones. So that post got picked up and reshared by those people too.
Yeah.
So, I don't see why you wouldn't use them, to be honest. Like, it's such a free opportunity to reach more people and build a community. So, I think, and if you're not sure where to start, have a look at people who you think are doing really well on Instagram and using good hashtags, and use some of those. Spend some time researching them. You'll fall down lots of different rabbit holes, because it's kind of takes you all kinds of great places. So maybe set a timer. That's what I do. I set a timer on my phone for 20 minutes when I'm researching hashtags.
That's such a good idea.
Well, otherwise it's like an hour's gone past and, oh my gosh, that's an hour of my life I'll never get back. But so there's some
great idea. So not only hashtags, but did you say you tagged those other people, like as in tagged, like put the @ symbol and tagged their pages in there as well?
I do that as well. Yeah. And also don't forget, in terms of getting PR for your product, or depending on what that is, like for example, Country Styles hashtag, which is Country Style Loves. I know that the editor regularly looks at that hashtag for story ideas.
Wow. That's an excellent tip.
So why wouldn't you use it? So think about, make a list of the publications that you might want to see yourself in, find out what hashtag they use, and just use it. You've got nothing to lose.
Yes. Gosh, that is so good. Gosh, Soph, you have so much incredible insight. This is amazing. And this is some of the best advice I think you can get for Instagram, everybody. So I hope everybody's been taking some notes. Now, in terms of measurement, what are some of now one thing that I absolutely loved about what you said before was that you will measure the success of a post based on the conversation that it has sparked. And as we said before, the algorithm is also judging your post based on the social connection that it does inspire. So is this something that you kind of monitor? And as you said, you can kind of get a good gauge of that because it's you who's kind of posting, and then you're checking back regularly to see if that post has landed, so to speak. Are there any other measurements that you would recommend small businesses reference to just measure the sense of progress that they're achieving?
Definitely. And look, I think the insights, if you've got a business account with Instagram, which I'd say most of your listeners will have, the insights that they give you, I think, are really useful and easily kind of laid out and easy to understand. So just check in on those, and, you know, maybe you're trying a new approach and give it a few weeks. And if it's not landing, then you can use your analytics to sort of guide that, or maybe I'll try a different tack, or maybe that style of image isn't quite right, or whatever that might be. So definitely look at that. But also remember that, you know, I find that if I do an explicit sales post, if I'm saying my book's on sale now, here's where you get it, link in profile, or tickets to this workshop have gone on sale, those posts don't necessarily get many likes, but the product will probably sell. So don't be disheartened when posts like that don't actually spark a conversation, because actually what people are doing is what you want them to do. Going, oh, sweet, the book's on sale, I'm going to toddle off and buy it. You know, so they're doing what you want them to do, but they're not lingering on that post because there's nothing to linger over. It's like, great, that's the information I need, I'm off to buy. So don't worry too much. If you're seeing activity that you want to see off the platform, those posts might get a handful of likes sometimes, or no comments, but it doesn't mean to say it's not seen. And also, don't be afraid to repost those. You know, don't assume that everyone's going to see every post that you put up, even if they're your kind of top fans. People are busy and they might not look at Instagram for a few days, and so they might have missed your big announcement. So post it a few times, and it's not like, I mean, Jane, if you posted about your podcast 4 or 5 times, I'm not going to unfollow you because of that. I'll be like, oh, sweet, I've seen that, I'll just keep scrolling, you know? So don't be afraid to repost important information, I think. I think that's... Sorry, my son's just walked in.
That's okay, no problems. In the background here, I've got the mowing man starting up. I've got my kids walking into the room. It's a bit real life, this episode, which is absolutely...
I know.
2 more
questions.
Yes, it is. 2 more really quick questions that I'm going to throw in without warning. Video.
Oh, good.
Video. Do you do video, and how much video do you do?
I don't do enough, I have to say. I should do more, and every time I do, I like it in the sense that people respond really well, and it's quite easy. Like, it's easy to create because you're there with your phone and you hold it out in front of you, and you know, filming. For example, it was about a year ago, actually, my daughter Alice and I were driving around the farm checking fences, and it takes a long time. It's a boring job. And so we thought, oh, we'll do a little interview in the ute. And so Ali and I interviewed each other about what it was like living through the drought. And then I posted on my IGTV, and it took a long time to load, so I forgot about it. And the next thing, 1,500 likes, heaps of comments. People really, really appreciated that personal insight into life on the farm. And it made me think, wow, you know, that took 2 seconds to do, and it was fun. And it really got traction. So it's something I should do more of. And I'm working on a plan to do a bunch of kind of cooking tutorials. Now we're all at home making bread and all the things that people seem to be interested in doing, and I'm just going to do them on IGTV. I'm not going to worry too much about microphones and making it look as schmick as possible. I'm just going to make sure the light's right and go for it, because I think if you wait and you think about it too much, you can kind of freeze up sometimes and think, oh, actually it's got to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just got to be real.
And certainly, and for those of you who haven't kind of had exposure to Instagram TV, it's the longer form content. It's the YouTube of Instagram, so to speak. And so when your video goes over the 1 minute mark, it gets moved across to the IGTV, and a little snippet of it will appear in your Instagram feed. And then if people want to watch more, they can head head to the Instagram TV show and watch that.
Yep.
And from what I see of what's on Instagram TV, it's almost like the story stuff. Like it's just real and it's raw and there's nothing polished about it whatsoever. It is just, you know, come as you are, and you know, as you've said several times before, it's more about the quality of the content. So if you're being really helpful and valuable with, or entertaining, or whatever your kind of brand tone is if you're providing that, people aren't going to care if you've got studio lighting and, you know, fancy mics, as long as they can hear you and see you and get the gist of what you're up to, you know, you're on board. So that's a really excellent tip. What about,
one other quick thing,
just
quickly about IGTV is, as much as I've read and understand, apparently Instagram really wants more people to use it. So they're kind of rewarding anyone who gets on now and uses it with bubbling you up in the algorithm. So I think you'll find that if you decided I'm going to do once a week an IGTV where I'm just sharing one tip or whatever it is that's relevant to your business or whatever. And I think you'll find that you'll get a big fat pat on the back from Instagram and delivered in the terms of they will show that to a lot more people.
You're absolutely right. And the reasoning behind that is because they can see that YouTube, so what happens with YouTube is people get drawn into kind of binge watching episodes. So the algorithm is based around the stickiness of the site. So people are on YouTube for longer because the content is longer. And then so they'll watch half an hour of something and then they'll watch another half an hour of something. And whilst this is not good for human mental health, it's tremendously helpful for the actual platform itself. So that's why Instagram, and it's even the case with Facebook, they want to see more longer form content on there. And you are absolutely right, so if they are absolutely rewarding people that do it. So for brands, it's actually really important that you get in there now and establish that presence while they are rewarding you, because once everyone's there, you'll be fighting for attention again. You know, it goes back to the square zero. And then very quickly, boosting. Have you ever paid for any boosted posts or advertising in Local Lovely, or is it all organic?
All organic. Yeah. I've never paid. But I think I'm lucky in the sense that I started a long time ago before the algorithm got so tricky. And so I sort of started in those golden days of Instagram, I guess, when you could get really good organic growth. But I can't really talk to that with any great expertise. I do a bit on Facebook for My Open Kitchen, but that's not my area of expertise. I do think that there's no doubt that boosting and things like that is a really valuable and, as far as I can gather, very affordable thing to do compared to other marketing exercises, I've been told. But I think that if you don't have the budget or either way, I think make a commitment to show up regularly with content that people want and need, and do it well. I think that, and if you're out there networking and communicating, that's a really good way to boost yourself.
100%. Oh, cannot agree more. Soph, there's been so much value in this interview. Honestly, I've been hanging on your every word. It's so on point. There's so much that businesses can take away from this. Tell us, where can we find you? If businesses want to, we've mentioned at Local Lovely on Instagram, but where can people sign up to your beautiful blog and find you?
So I've got sort of two homes online, I guess. One is Local is Lovely, where people can come for recipes and my 5 Things newsletter. And then if you want, I share all sorts of tips like we've been talking about and little tutorials and resources over at My Open Kitchen. So it's just My Open Kitchen on Instagram, and then you can jump over to my milkshake link and it'll take you to my website. So at Local Lovely or at My Open Kitchen on Instagram is probably the best jumping off point.
and you've got 3 books.
Or 2.5.
2.5, 2 published, and 1 on the way. And I certainly have the first one, Local is Lovely. It's an absolute treat. Whenever I'm looking for some connection to the Central West or some comfort food, that's exactly where I head.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Soph. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure our listeners will as well.
Oh, thanks so much, Jan. I've loved chatting with you. And I can't wait to listen to the rest of your podcast. It sounds fabulous.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of How to Do Marketing featuring Sophie Hansen. My goodness, I learned so much from what Soph had to tell us. I hope you did too. If you enjoyed this episode, please listen to some more. If you subscribe to the How to Do Marketing show, you'll ensure that you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. Please do leave a rating or review. This helps other people discover the How to Do Marketing show as well. Until next time, happy marketing.
You've been listening to another Morgan Media production.